Okay. So the subculture I've chosen to investigate is what I term the indie rock subculture. And in this presentation, I will look at the relationship between subculture and brands on a broader level, with specific focus on the indie rock subculture and the brand Vans. The reason I've chosen the indie rock subculture was it was a field I felt that I could contribute to as a result of being part of this scene a few years ago. Being in many bands, I've acquired a group of friends who are still part of the scene, and I felt that it gave me an opportunity to contribute more towards the sort of understanding behind the subculture and their relationship with brands. The research design methodology. So I chose primarily qualitative methods, which were used as a result of obtaining deeper insights into the subculture, with a specific desire to search for specific trends within the subculture. Data was collected through semi-structured interviews with 4 members of the subculture. This was done through having semi-structured interviews, allowing for leeway to have a conversational tone, with the main function being towards gaining deeper insights into the subculture's relationship with brands and how they identify themselves. I also employed a ethnographic method of research through participant observation by immersing myself within the culture. I did this through attending live gigs, hanging out at local spots which are frequented by members of the subculture. This was mainly done in order to observe the subculture in the most natural and uninhibited sort of state, where that they're most comfortable. And I felt that this was able to give me a feel into the subculture, which was not possible through other methods such as quantitative analysis. My observations that night, the nights I went to immerse myself in the culture, were then documented through my phone on notes, all with the idea of searching for common themes or behavioral patterns which I observed throughout the night. I also analyzed archival data online on Facebook, just to witness how members would engage with one another, how they communicate, the language they use, the way they dress, the way they coordinate events. And I found, since the subculture is a subculture that spends a lot of time on social media, I felt that it's a good way to as opposed to seeing them in real life, also seeing who they project they are online. Okay, the core purpose identified of indie rock subculture was to reject conformity and differentiate themselves from traditional expectancies. In my interviews, I managed the participants in my interviews. I observed they were from middle-class backgrounds, and the way that is, and there was an intention within each of them to reject the sort of expectancies which arise from being part of a middle-class background. Interesting thing I read by subculturalist Dick Hebdige. He calls the rejection of conformity, and within subcultures, he terms it symbolic resistance, which is resisting the notion or the traditional expectations of being from a middle class and being at a specific point during a specific time in your life. And I noticed the indie rock subculture expressed this through their choice of music, which is slightly against the grain of what is deemed as normal sort of music. None of the members I interviewed were involved in the corporate world, so this is also reflected, the rebellions reflected through the career choices, it's reflected to the style, which we'll get into next, and the brands they identify with, which usually have anti-corporate undertones despite being a corporate brand. Okay, so what motivates, unifies, and drives them? I'll say predominantly they are motivated and driven by self-expression through mediums such as art, music, photography, fashion. There's a high importance placed on expressing their identity as being different and alternative. The subculture unifies itself around the live music scene, which is the backbone of the subculture, and through gathering towards seeing live music, they've created a strong sense of community both offline and online. And this has contributed to the creation of a scene through having a strong sense of community. They're also unified in the music they listen to, where they hang out, their interest in art, and their fashion sense as well, which will be analyzed in the next slide. Ironically, the fact that they're sort of unified through the way they dress, the way they dress almost serves as sort of a uniform, as a visual indicator of the subculture they're part of. Okay, so what are the shared distinguishing elements of subculture identity? It comprises of three major elements, I would argue. The way members dress, their use of language and jargon, the practices they engage in. The dress code of the subculture observed, they placed a high importance on fashion and the way they dressed as it relates to the way they visually and physically express their identity. I've noticed that it was influenced a lot by skater culture. Interesting, one guy interviewed described the dress sense as Normcore meets Tony Hawk. Mainly stating which was a product of them dressing casual, quirky, and sort of minimalist and very basic in a way. The dress code comprises mainly or generally consisting of headwear of different varieties, oversized t-shirts, flannel shirts, high socks, rolled up denims, Vans, shoes. Here's a perfect example. As you can see, there's passive anti sort of corporate undertones and like sort of, as Heritage calls, symbolic resistance in the way they project themselves, going for a very casual look that sort of it's very anti-corporate in the way it's put together. You can see ripped up denim jeans, sort of rolled up Vans shoes, high socks, oversized shirts, and headgear, such as beanie. And again, passively anti-corporate, I would say, in the way they dress. The jargon language used by the subculture I found very interesting as a hybrid between skate slang and local Cape Townian slang words. So, for example, words such as ill and dope are used in conjunction with local colloquialisms such as aware and lekker. The use of words such as aware and lekker, I found, which is predominantly used by the working class in Cape Town, could symbolically be seen as the subculture's willingness to further rebel and disassociate themselves from traditional middle-class expectancies, reinstating what Heritage calls their act of symbolic resistance.